Hey guys, what is up? It is a Fast Break Report here, bringing you guys another vlog. So we got to talk about the elephant in the room. I wanted to save this video for, another day like tomorrow, but I'm so anxious to talk about it because it's a team that has to make a move. And that is the Los Angeles Clippers. They are the elephant in the room. Now that the Golden State Warriors traded Jordan Poole, they are no longer like in luxury tax apron hell like they were just a couple days ago. But now the team that is in luxury tax hell with a seat right next to the fucking devil is the Los Angeles Clippers. They are a team that is going to need to move off of one of their two star players in Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. And unfortunately, even though Kawhi Leonard had his ACL injury, Kawhi Leonard has still been more readily available than Paul George, which is fucking astounding to me. But if the Clippers are going to move off of any player, it's pretty much going to be Paul George. And the reason I say that is because the last time Paul George played more than 60 games or 60 games or more was in 2018-2019 when he was on the Thunder. The same thing can be said about Kawhi Leonard, okay? 2018-2019 when he was on the Raptors was the last time that he played 60 games, like exactly 60 games. But even in that time, Kawhi Leonard has played more games than Paul George. So if I'm the Clippers, I'm going with Kawhi. Kawhi, I think, is the better player, is the more consistent player. He's a guy who tends to elevate his game in the playoffs, it seems. If I'm the Clippers, I'm keeping Kawhi. And I also watched a podcast today, The Low Post with Zach Lowe, and even he said, the Clippers are in a spot where it's like they have to do something. And I really don't want to piss in anyone's Cheerios, but I kind of have to. The Clippers championship window's over. The ship has sailed at this point. There's a lot of frustration going on over there. You can tell. Watch a Ty Lue press conference after they lose a fucking game, or just any, towards the end of these seasons where they're not doing well, they're not a top seed and stuff like that, you can tell there's obvious frustrations there, and there's even rumors around the NBA about the amount of frustration going on with the Los Angeles Clippers. And they're so, the tax apron's $185 million, right? They're at $201 million. So not only will they have to get off of Paul George, but they'll probably have to get off of Norman Powell as well in order to be safely below the second apron. And it's just the idea, they're a team that can't even get, right now, the current state of their team, I would not be surprised if within the next week Paul George becomes available. Because they're a team that they can't even sign vets. I hate to say that if you're a Clippers fan, but if I'm an NBA vet, right, and I want to go out on a high note, I'm not going to the fucking Clippers. Okay, I'm just not. You're located in California. You have the highest fucking tax rate of any state in the country, and okay, you're not even the best team out there. You know what I'm saying? If I'm an NBA vet, why would I go to the Clippers? Why not? Why would I choose them over the Bucks? Why would I choose them over the Celtics? Why would I choose them over the Miami Heat? Why would I choose them over the Phoenix Suns? Why would I choose them over the Denver Nuggets? There are too many better teams out there to justify vets signing with the Clippers. They don't have enough depth, and that's what they need. They need depth, and the only way they're going to add depth is by getting off the guys who are chewing the fuck out of their tax bill. And I'm to a point, I would honestly be shocked if one of those guys isn't moved if not this offseason, at the trade deadline next season. Because they're honestly, the Clippers, I get what they tried to do, but they're paying a whole lot of fucking bread to be a team that is just not getting it done. And we see teams around the league doing this now. They're cutting the fat, man. The Warriors did it with Jordan Poole. Okay, the Atlanta Hawks did it with John Collins. Minnesota's probably going to be doing it with Karl Anthony Towns. And now the Clippers probably going to be doing it with Paul George. You cannot, the new CBA is going to fuck a lot of teams day up. I'm just telling you right now, the new CBA is fucking teams' days up because they're like, okay, we can no longer just sign 2 guys to these insanely high supermax contracts and expect guys to come here. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a thing anymore. The league is too competitive, and if you're not a team that's well-rounded with like Denver, right? The highest paid players on their roster are Michael Porter Jr. and I think Jokic, and I think that's it. Like Jamal Murray, I know has an extension, but I don't think it's anywhere near the ballpark of Michael Porter Jr. or is Jokic. I think is due for I think he signed a supermax if I'm correct, but he's actually worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Clippers gave basically a supermax deal to Paul George. Like, I get why they did because he was I think an MVP caliber player when they gave it to him, but they're not worth that anymore. And when you go into next season's offseason and these guys look for extensions, okay, you can best believe they're going to want their bread. And if I'm the Clippers, I got to look at them and go, well, sorry, but you guys don't play enough for us to justify that. And with that being said, it would be smarter for the Clippers to trade Paul George or trade Kawhi Leonard and get something for them rather than go into next offseason and potentially offend one of them with an offer, right? Because not for nothing, but when you're a star player this long, egos become a thing. And not that Kawhi Leonard would be a problem, because I think Kawhi Leonard is a guy that's not, I don't know how egotistical Kawhi is. He doesn't strike me as that. But Paul George is one of those guys that's as a Pacers fan, I know how egotistical he can be sometimes. Paul George is going to want to get paid. And so when I look at this, I just think the Clippers are in a lose-lose situation. They have to do something. Vets aren't going to want to go there. And you have so much money tied up in 2 guys that you can't add any depth around the 2 guys that you have. And those 2 guys don't play a whole lot of fucking basketball for you. So if there's any team that is right now in absolute cap space purgatory, it's the Los Angeles Clippers. And as a Pacers fan, this is going to be contradictory, or not contradictory, but there's going to be Pacers fans that don't like it. It's going to heat some people, but I would have no problems bringing Paul George back. As a Pacers fan, Paul George is the type of player we fucking need. A 2-way guy who can go out there and get buckets. And now that we have Tyrese Halliburton, Ben Mathurin, you play PG at the 3, Jarris Walker at the 4, Miles Turner at the 5, suddenly you got a pretty solid-looking fucking starting 5. And, we still got the availability to bring some guys in, maybe. Excuse me. If we were to trade for Paul George, yeah, we'd probably have to part with Buddy Hield. We'd probably have to part with TJ McConnell. And we'd probably have to part with some of our young guys. Maybe even Andrew Nembhard. Or a guy like Jalen Smith. Or a guy like Chris Duarte. I would think Nembhard would be a guy we would have to part ways with. But you know what? I'm fine with it. I am perfectly... If we can get Paul George for fucking Andrew Nembhard, Buddy Hield, TJ McConnell, and some picks, I'm for it, man. Sign me up. Because the good thing at that point is, finally you have a winning team. You have a team that's going to make the playoffs at that point. And... you can continue to build through the draft, right? You could bring some guys in free agency. You could easily bring in a Thomas O'Bryant or a guy like that. Once you finally have a cohesive unit, a team that's good, players want to come play with that, man. I get that we're in fucking Indiana and, all there is really cornfields and shit. But it's just the idea, you'd be shocked, how many players would want to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? Like Tyrese Halliburton. We already saw DeAndre Ayton wanted to play with him. And, you gotta think, OG Anunoby is clearly turning down his fucking player option in the next couple of years here. The next year, I think it's 2024, 2025. I think next offseason. I could be wrong, don't quote me. But I think OG Anunoby has a player option for next offseason that he's obviously going to decline. So, we might even be able to get OG Anunoby for the fucking low at the trade deadline. I don't know. But it's just the idea, man. This new CBA is really fucking a lot of teams' days up. And it's great for us being a small market team because somebody said this on the True Indiana Pacers group on Facebook the other day. It's like True Indiana Pacers fans. Somebody said this evens out the league for small market teams, where it's like teams like, Indiana, San Antonio right now, which that's probably not going to be the case for long, but like all these small market teams, the Utah Jazz, teams with a lot of cap space, this gives you a chance to like land one of those guys for the low. Okay? Like we've seen the asking price, man. John Collins got traded for fucking Rudy Gay and a future second round pick. Okay? And Bradley Beal got traded for fucking nuts and bolts. And then we ended up picking up Jordan Poole off the Warriors because the Warriors didn't want to pay him. Like, I kind of knew Jordan Poole was gone. Only because they need Draymond way more than they need Jordan Poole. But still, also, you consider, like, the chemistry issue, and on top of it, the idea that, like, Jordan Poole was putting them over the second apron. They had to get rid of him. So, it was a win-win, really, for both the Wizards and the Warriors. But we are at a time where teams like the Chicago Bulls and, the Clippers, teams like that are in literally salary cap hell right now, they're going to need to start cutting the fat, man. And guess who's going to get to eat? Gonna be us. It's going to be one of us, the small market teams, the bottom feeders, the guys with money to blow. Okay, it's going to be us. So, I'm here for it. You know what? As a Pacers fan, give me Paul George. Thank you. Give me Karl Anthony Towns. Thank you. I will extend both arms, please. Put it in my hands, because you know what? As a Pacers fan, it's been a long fucking time since we've had a good team, and adding a guy like Karl Anthony Towns or Paul George to what we have would make our team exciting again. And you know what? I like that. I like that for the league. And honestly, the more competitive the teams are, the better it is for the sport. The better it is for people like you and I, the fans. And you know what? I understand owners don't like the new CBA. GMs don't like owners of these teams do not like this new CBA. They don't, because you know what? They're going to have to get rid of a guy they really don't want to. And in some cases, yeah, some teams are going to get rid of guys they've wanted to get rid of. Like the Hawks got rid of John Collins. They've been trying to get off of him for fucking years. And I would say the Warriors probably didn't want to get off of Jordan Poole. But and even the Wizards, they didn't want to get rid of Bradley Beal for what they got rid of him for. Granted, that's, the fault of the previous regime they had. But, this is a chance to get some good players for maybe not an insane asking price, because teams are so worried about paying that CBA tax rate, that second apron tax rate, that they're going to be like, if you're not a team that's fucking winning, if your team is not set up to win a championship, that $155 million tax bill that the Clippers have becomes like a fucking death threat. So all I'm saying is, man, there's a lot of teams where they're quickly realizing it doesn't even make sense for them to keep these guys, because if you're not competitive, it doesn't make sense to pay that tax bill. It doesn't. And teams are learning that, man. I would be shocked. Honestly, I'd be really shocked if Paul George isn't on the market in this offseason here within the next couple weeks. I would be shocked, because at that point, I have to question the GM. I have to question ownership, because the Clippers really need to trim one of their superstars and potentially Norman Powell. I mean, I'm not sure what their contract situation looks like. Who are some guys that they really need to cut or trade away. But their team right now, Kawhi's making $42 million next year, and so is Paul George. Eric Gordon's a guy they're going to get rid of. I guarantee Eric Gordon's a guy they're going to look to get rid of. Norman Powell's a guy they're going to look to get rid of. Marcus Morris is a guy. They have a lot of guys, Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum. Ivanka Zubac would be a solid pickup. But, Mason Plumlee, they really got to get rid of Eric Gordon or Norman Powell, and they're probably going to have to dump one of their superstar players. As unfortunate as that is, at least if you cut Paul George, like if you get rid of Paul George, you can trade Eric Gordon. Like finally, you're looking a little better. Like those two would be enough to get them back out of hell. But like, I don't know, man. It is not looking good for the Clippers. They have a lot of guys on their team making a whole lot of bread, and they're not a competitive team. Like I hate to say that, but like I didn't really understand the trade for Eric Gordon. I didn't understand giving up Luke Kennard for Eric Gordon. I didn't understand that at all. Norman Powell, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard are their three best players right now. Robert Covington being $12 million, like they're probably going to try to trade him. Marcus Morris making $16 million, like those are the guys they're probably going to try to get rid of. Current contract. So who's under contract for next season? They have Eric Gordon, Norman Powell, Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum, Ivanka Zubac, Kawhi, and PG. So yeah, they got a lot. Terrence Mann is even a guy who's making like this upcoming season he's making $10 million, and then $11 million the year after that. Norman Powell, I feel like Norman Powell and Eric Gordon are the two guys they're probably shopping right now as we speak. But I would be astonished if Paul George is not on the block. And I forgot. I didn't realize Kawhi Leonard's younger than Paul George. So by 2 years, Kawhi's 31, Paul George is 33. So yeah, man, the Clippers are gonna have to start trimming some fat, and it's gonna come in the form of Eric Gordon, Norman Powell, and potentially Paul George. So tell me what you guys think about this down below in the comment section below. A like helps me out. Subscribe if you guys want to see more on the Fast Break Report, and out of this motherfucker. Peace, guys.